Hey everybody, let's do a little 7.7 review before we move on to 7.8. All the work that I received yesterday looked very well done. There's just one small thing that I want to point out to you. So right here we're adding these two mixed numbers together, 6 and 4/5 plus 7 and 4/5. This was actually one of the problems directly from the book, so you can go back and check it out. I forget which number, I think it was number 4 in the page that you sent me. Anyway, pretty easy, right? 6 plus 7 is 13, and then 4/5 plus 4/5. Most people wrote 8/5, and that was their final answer. That is technically correct, although the book asks you to rename any fraction greater than 1. So when we look and we see that this fraction is greater than 1, let me see. Actually, it says write the sum as a mixed number so that the fractional is less than 1. We see that the fraction, or the fractional right here, 8/5, is that less than 1 or greater than 1? It's clearly greater than 1. 8/5 is 1 and 3/5, right? So we need to, we've got an extra hole in there. We need to give it over to the 13. So 13 becomes 14 and 3/5. Do you see how I gave that new hole that we created over to the whole number side? So 13 is going to become 14, and then we're going to have 3/5 left over. Okay? Just one more example of that. This is also from page 427. People wrote for their final answer on one of them. 5 and 3/4. That was number 3, actually. 5 and 3/4. That's technically correct. You found the right answer. You did everything correctly. But now you need to, that fractional, you need to make sure that it's not greater than 1. 4/3 is definitely greater than 1. 3/3 would be equal to 1, and 2/3 would be less than 1. So 4/3 will not do in this case. So we've got to give it the whole the new whole that we created over to the whole number side. 5 turns into 6, and we've got 1 left over, so 6 and 1/3. Okay, if you have any questions on that, let me know. For the most part, people were getting it. That was just a small detail that I'd like to make sure you guys are doing. 7.8. It's really pretty easy. We are renaming mixed numbers to subtract. Okay, so if you check this out, here's an example of renaming a fraction. You can take 1 and 3/4 and change it into 7/4, okay? That's similar. This is basically the opposite of what we were just doing. Being able to work back and forth between mixed numbers and fractions, it's important, right? So you look at 1 and 3/4 and know that it is the same as 7/4. Look at 2.5 and know that it is the same as 5/2. If you see 5/2 and they ask for a mixed number, you got to be able to change that over to 2.5. If you see 1 and 3/4 and they ask you for a fraction, you got to change it over to 7/4. Renaming is just moving back and forth between the two. You guys have been doing this for a couple chapters and you're getting really good at it. In this unit, you guys are doing that in order to make subtraction easier. So when you look at a problem like 5 and 1/8 minus 3 and 3/8, okay, subtracting the whole numbers, that part's easy, right? 5 minus 3 equals 2. You could just write that down below. But now look at the fractions. 1/8 minus 3/8. All of a sudden, you're going, okay, I can't subtract 3 from 1. How do I do this? Well, all you need to do is make this fraction right here a little bigger by borrowing from the 5. So we're going to change the 5 into a 4, and then we're going to make this fraction bigger, allowing us to subtract. It's pretty cool. Check it out. 5 becomes 4, and since a whole in this case is 8/8, we get to give 8 to the fraction. So all of a sudden, 5 and 1/8 becomes 4 and 9/8, and all of a sudden, super easy to subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. 9/8 minus 3/8 is 6/8. Very good. Basically, you see we borrowed a whole number to give us a bigger fraction, making the top fraction bigger and making for an easy subtraction. That is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, you notice that you borrowed just a little bit. You borrowed just one number. 5 turned into 4, and you went from 1/8 to 9/8. Another way of doing it is just turning both numbers into fractions. You can choose either technique. So 3 and 4/12 minus 1 and 6/12. Again, subtracting the whole numbers would be easy. 3 minus 1 equals 2. But then when you get the fractions, you're like, ooh, 4 minus 6. That's a little bit tricky. 4 twelfths minus 6 twelfths. How do I do that? The other technique is you could just take this whole 3 and 4 twelfths and just turn it into one big fraction. You learned how to do that, the renaming, I think 2 lessons ago. Let's do the quick way on this one. Instead of doing 12 over 12 plus 12 over 12 plus 12 over 12 plus 4 over 12, let's just do 3 times 12, 36, plus 4, it's 40. 40 over 12 is our new fraction. So writing this mixed number as just a fraction looks like that. Now let's do the same thing with 1/6. 1 times 12 is 12, plus 6 is 18. Now we can put 18 over 12. Those are our two new fractions. Instead of 3 and 4 twelfths minus 1 and 6 twelfths, we're just going to subtract 40 twelfths from 18 twelfths. And that gets pretty easy, right? 40 minus 18 is 22. We have 22 twelfths. And we want to carry this out a little bit, probably put it back into a mixed number would be a good idea. We know 12 over 12 would be 1 whole. Well, how many times is 12 going to 22? 1 time, right? And 22 divided by 12 is 1 with a remainder of 10. So our final answer, sorry for the sloppy writing, we're a little crowded, is 1 and 10 twelfths. Really all we did was we took these two mixed numbers and we just turned them into fractions, just pure fractions. And then the subtraction was really easy. We kept it over 12. We recognized that 22 over 12, it's greater than 1. Did a little division, ended up with 1 and 10 twelfths. Okay, let's practice each technique one more time. 4 and 7 tenths minus 1 and 9 tenths. Again, 4 minus 1, that would be 3. It would be really easy. However, when I get over those fractions, 7 tenths minus 9 tenths, not so easy. So let's do the small bit of borrowing. We're not going to turn the whole big thing into, we're going to turn them into big fractions. We're just going to borrow what we need. So in this case, all we need to borrow is just that 4. So that 4 is going to turn into a 3, right? And we're going to get to borrow 10 over 10 or 10 parts. So 7 is going to change into what? Into 17, right? We borrowed the 4. So now we have 3 and 17 tenths instead of 4 and 7 tenths. See how we threw a 1 whole over to the fraction side? Now our fraction is easy to subtract, right? We can do 3 minus 1 and end up with 2. And now we can do 17 tenths and minus 9 tenths and end up with 8. 2 and 8 tenths. And if I want to simplify, it'd be 2 and 4 fifths. But either, for now, let's focus on one thing at a time. All right, let's try that other technique one last time. 4 and 1/5 minus 3 and 2/5. Let's just turn them both into just straight fractions. No mixed numbers. We're just going to go big on it. So 4 and 1/5 written as a fraction. Well, 4 times 5 is 20. Plus 1 is 21. So that top mixed number is going to turn into 21 over 5. 4 and 1/5 is the same exact thing as 21 over 5. 3 and 2/5. All right, 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 2 is 17. So 3 and 2/5 is the exact same thing as 17 over 5. Now subtracting 21/5 from 17/5 is very easy, right? 4/5. Piece of cake, right? Piece of crumb cake. All right, cool. If you guys have any questions on this, let me know. You guys will do a marvelous job, just as you have been doing. Super proud of you on the math. Keep it up, guys, and math will be your only subject for the day. So it'll be catch-up Friday, but we will keep at it with our math. All right, take care, guys.